You're watching The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ MV, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the God. We are The Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building. Goes by the name of Tariq Nasheed.
Yes, sir.
Yes, indeed.
Morning, sir.
Yeah, I'm good, brother. You did not put enough respect on my damn name, man.
You're not going to walk out on us,
Brother,
are you?
I need 2 more tablespoons of respect. How do you quantify respect on your name? My man Ola said Birdman walked up in here like Lucius lying on y'all ass.
He wasn't
That was
playing.
hilarious,
Absolutely.
man. I love it. I love it.
I knew it was going left. He didn't say hello to anybody.
Now you didn't speak to anybody.
He just walked in and sat
It
down.
was the reason why it was so funny is because they were dressed too nice. You can't be nice dressed goons. They had on designer clothes. One of the dudes had on a paisley hoodie. I'm like, that's not scary.
There could have been a gun under that hoodie, though.
Yeah.
You never know. now, I first got introduced to Tariq with the Hidden Colors films.
Yeah.
What made you do that at the time? Because, we saw United Shades of America last night. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't like it as much as Hidden Colors. I didn't even understand what the point of it was.
Yeah. Well, I used to do relationship books. Well, I still
That's
do relationship
actually when I
books.
met Tariq Nasheed years ago when he was
She knew me in my Mackin'
Mackin'.
days. You've been knowing me for years, since the Mackin' days.
You was kind of the original Steve Harvey.
Oh,
You was a little bit-
that's true. I thought you took it one way. I'm like, oh, my teeth ain't that big.
What
Shout
every
out to Steve.
every female should know about men. Play or get played.
Yeah. My first book was Play or Be Played, a book for women. My first book, The Art of Mackin', was for men. That was a New York Times bestseller. And I was teaching a lot of people about dating and relationships. And I noticed that race would always come up when talking about relationships. Race and relationships kind of go hand in hand. We have to understand that marriage in this country, the reason why we needed to get marriage licenses was because they didn't want black people to get wealth by intermarrying people.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. Before marriage licenses, people would just have to get a religious certificate to get married. But they didn't want interracial couples to pop off because the wealth from that would trickle into the black community. So they stopped that by making people get licenses. So we have to understand how race and relationships go hand in hand. And I
Wait a
want
minute. So if you wanted an interracial relationship back then, you would have to go and apply for it. And if they seen that you were black and white, they'd be like, no, deny it?
basically that's what it was before the 1920s, because marriage is about business
Right.
at the end of the day.
That's very
And
true.
just like y'all see with
Sign a
Amon
contract.
and David Boy. David Boy just died, and a lot of people are tripping about her getting all that money. So a lot of people are tripping on that because they never want to get generational wealth passed down to the black community. That's always been a big thing in racist society.
So you think if David was married to a white woman, it wouldn't be?
They wouldn't even tripped on that. They wouldn't have tripped on that at all. But yeah, that was the reason why they needed marriage licenses, and that's the reason why interracial relationships were looked down upon.
So that's what made you want to do Hidden Colors, because of the race and relationship thing.
Because race kept coming up, and we look at systematic racism. It dominates all areas of activity when we look at it. There are 9 areas of activity, and it's all dominated by racism. Sex, labor, law, war, politics, everything.
What's the other one? Sex, labor, law, war, politics,
religion, and what's the other one?
education, maybe?
Yeah, education.
Okay.
And the judicial system, all of it is dominated by race. So I did the Hidden Colors series because at the time, we started filming in 2010, and we kept complaining about the images of us in media. There were movies like Precious that was out showing us in a negative light.
African-American horror movie.
Yeah, it was horrible. The way we were projected in that movie was horrible. You had movies like The Blind Side, all of these movies where black people are in these subservient positions. And whenever you have documentary films about black history, it's regulated to civil rights and slavery.
Absolutely.
That's it. But what were we doing before slavery? What were we doing before civil rights? So that's what I did with the Hidden Colors series. A lot of people don't know the Hidden Colors documentary series is the most successful black history documentary series ever.
Wow.
But we don't get any mainstream publicity
And you
over
had to
that.
fund that yourself,
We
right?
had to fund it ourselves. We had to fund all of it ourselves.
Now, it's interesting you say that about the slave movies, because I said 3 years ago, or maybe after 12 years a slave, however long ago that was, I don't want to see any more slave movies. I know that story. I know that experience. I said the last one they should make is the Nat Turner movie, because Nat wasn't a victim.
Yes, indeed. That was a great story with Nat, man. And also, we don't know the history of African people. We don't know about African people who used to rule parts of Europe who were called the Moors. People don't know that there were African empires where you had people like Mansa Musa, who was the richest man in recorded history, who lived in West Africa, who had a fortune of almost $1 trillion in gold. We don't know about this stuff. Even here in New York, we don't know that there are slave plantations that's still here. Right on Long Island, there's a slave plantation called Sylvester Manor.
Really?
That's here right now. Yeah, it's a tourist attraction. Folks don't even know about it. So there's a lot of hidden history all over the place.
Do you think it's necessary to know your history of Africa if you're African American because we've created so much of our own history here?
Oh yeah. You need to know what your history is because you need to know where you went wrong. We went wrong somewhere in order to get dominated, and some of those mistakes you got to learn from it. That's why in the dominant society they have the History Channel because they need to know where they went wrong, where they went right, and how to maintain power. See, we keep getting told that we were just slaves. So we just kind of accept that and say, okay, let's not even try to empower ourselves. But when we see the empires that we've built historically around the world, because African people were global people, we circumnavigated the planet, then we can understand where we went wrong so we can re-empower ourselves.
Now, you've been saying that you're not planning to vote. You don't believe in voting. Now, why is that? Explain that, because we've been talking a lot about elections. We've had Bernie Sanders up here. We've had Hillary Clinton on
And you're
the
very
show.
critical of them.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. And when Hillary was about to be on, I text this brother a bunch of questions to ask. It was too late, but I text you a bunch of questions to ask Hillary because see, they have something that they put in play for black people in the 1960s called the benign neglect policy. This was started by the Nixon administration. Benign neglect, meaning during the 1960s, there were a lot of riots. Black people were rising up. And they had something called the Kerner Commission because they wanted to figure out why black people doing all this rioting out here. And they found out that the reason for the riots is because of white racism. And the Kerner Commission said, okay, yeah, we know it's racism. We've always been racist, but what's the problem? Why are they acting out now? And they found out that black people were upset because the government kept promising black people things after the civil rights movement, and they knew they weren't going to commit to it or do anything. So black people were getting upset because the promises were not being honored. So they came up with a position called benign neglect, meaning they will stop telling black people they're going to give them stuff. Just act like black people don't exist and don't use the word black or African American. Use vague, ambiguous terms like minority.
Right.
So
So now it's urban and
urban, exactly. So now, even today, when you see Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, the minute you say, "Hey, what are you going to do for black people?" They say, "Well, we're going to do something for minorities. Well, we're going to do something for the poor. We're going to do something for the youth. We're going to do something for people of color." So they never really commit to black people. So we got to stop voting for people if they're not going to commit to us specifically.
But you're saying don't vote because
I'm saying do
people
not
die
vote
for the right to vote.
See, that's the thing. Black people, we got this thing where we vote out of tradition and fear. We vote because Granny voted. We voted because my great-grandmama voted. We voted because my great-uncle died. Or we voted because we're afraid that Donald Trump is going to win. See, we can't vote out of fear and tradition. We got to be more practical and vote and have an economic base to codify that vote, because voting without an economic base is useless. The Asian community, they have the lowest voter turnout, but they have the highest per capita of wealth, and this is why they can get stuff done politically that we can't get done.
How can you? Well, two things. How can you complain if you're not, trying to be a part of the solution to change
process,
things?
right.
And number two, what's the other option other than voting?
See, and what you just said is the opposite. See, if you vote for somebody like Barack Obama and he doesn't do anything for you, you can't complain. You voted for him. Got that? But if you don't vote for him, you can say, "Hey, man, I didn't vote for you, and you're not really doing what you're supposed to do."
Or you can
you can say, "I
vote.
voted for
Or you
you,
can vote and
and you're
keep the
not doing
fire to his
what I
ass.
thought."
But the thing is, that's the thing. People throw that in our faces because when we complain about so-called the Democrats, because I don't believe in the Democrats or Republicans, they're just they work together. They work hand in hand. So when you complain about the Republicans, they'll say, "Well, the Democrats didn't do anything for you," and that's true. And a lot of black folks won't criticize the Democrats. So when you vote for people, they'll throw it in your face. Well, if I'm so bad, why did you vote for me?
But I feel like if we don't vote, and I'm saying the African American community,
Right.
the minorities, if we don't vote, then you look up and then we have a president named Donald Trump because our vote is so powerful.
But let me ask you this, man. What will Donald Trump do, and what's going to happen to black society that's not already happening under Obama?
I think it'll be worse. I think
How so? How can it get worse than we getting shot
I think
and
it'll be
with
worse.
impunity? How?
Because I see a lot of more overt racism now.
It's
with
overt
Donald
now.
Trump. No, it's overt now, but I
It's getting
think
worse.
it'll get worse.
And I think
with Donald Trump.
internationally, a lot of people do not like Donald Trump at all, and I think that would.
Yeah,
put
they
us
look
in
at
a-
America as a joke. And,
Yeah.
and contrary to
Terrible
popular
position.
belief, everybody outside of the country looks at us as America, not black America, white America. It's America.
Brother, it's bad for us now. The black neighborhoods are getting gentrified. Black people are funneled into basically concentration camps called housing projects. We're funneled into the prison system. We're getting shot with impunity now. And we keep saying, well, it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. It is worse. So we got to start using our political clout and say, hey, look, I'm not going to vote for these people unless they do something for us specifically. And giving them our vote without requiring anything, that's not going to motivate them to do anything.
So what's the solution other than voting?
So you're saying our voices don't matter unless we have an economic base?
You got to have an economic base. It's the money that counts. This is why different groups, they put super PACs out there to fund the Hillary Clintons, to fund the Bernie Sanders, and this is why they get stuff done. For example, the Hispanic community. Now, they got PACs that they will get their money together and give it to a Bernie and a Hillary. That's why Bernie and Hillary will do stuff specifically for the Hispanic community. They've offered jobs specifically for the Hispanic community. The gay community will get their money together and give $8, $9, $10 million to a politician. So this is why they will put a gay rights agenda on the map. We black folks, we don't put no money together. We just go out there with signs and chanting and say, hey, vote for us because we black and we like you. We got to stop that and we got to change our game.
Well, Malcolm X, with the ballot to the bullet, he said that African Americans should exercise their right to vote. But if their demands aren't met, then they shouldn't be afraid to pick up a gun and demand.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm kind of torn with that.
Well, the other alternative is we have our own independent political party. That's another thing. We form our own party, and we use that as leverage. So now, if the Republicans or the Democrats, they want something from us, that independent party, they're going to have to bring something to the table. It's just that simple. We just can't keep whoring ourselves out just because Hillary knows how to do the nay-nay. You dig?
It's actually the dab.
Yeah, doing the dab. No, she did
She
the
did the
nay-nay
nay-nay
too.
too.
She did the
Yeah.
nay-nay
I
too.
missed the nay-nay.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, he's the one who gave me the question for the hot sauce. He gave Angela the hot sauce question. Tariq did. Tariq told Angela that.
What? Ask what she carries in her bag?
carries in her bag.
It wasn't a specific hot sauce question. I just asked what does she always have with her. Now, you're from Detroit, right?
Yeah, originally. Yeah,
Originally from
yeah.
Detroit. Do you do anything there now? Because I know Detroit, went bankrupt.
Yeah.
As
yeah,
we
yeah.
all know, the school system is pretty bad. And right now they're trying to rebuild. What do you think about that, being that you're from Detroit and have ties there?
Yeah. You know, people talk about Detroit, but you got to understand that Detroit was turned into a so-called ghetto because the economic base was taken out by those in the dominant society. What happens is, after civil rights, a lot of these cities went into decay because the people who practiced racism took the tax base out and the economic base out.
Just
and
say white people, man.
Right.
You're doing what they do to us when they say urban. And
I don't know how
The
bold we
dominant
can get. I don't want them to turn the radio off.
we had Farrakhan and Dick Gregory on here, man.
Because I said white supremacy. I was in Europe. I did a radio and said white supremacy. The guy turned the radio off and said, "What are you doing? You're going to get us turned off." I'm like, okay, brother, damn, okay. So, but the white supremacists, the people who practice racism, they took these economic bases out of these cities and created ghettos. And when they take the economic base out and the tax base out and the city goes into decay, they say, well, look at those black folks. Look at how they do when we let them be in charge, when we're really not in charge.
Well, let me ask you a question. You mentioned earlier, you said everything is financial as far as money and building up our own communities.
Yes.
How do we build up our own communities when we were never taught? And that's the part of the problem that we have. Like you look at some of my neighbors and some of the people that I know, they have, their wealth comes from generation after generation after generation. And for me, it wasn't like that, and for most African Americans and most black families, it's not really like that. I'm the first person to go to college in my family and invest in certain things. It's kind of like crapshooting because you don't know what you're doing, but you're trying your best. So how do you teach our own community, and how does our own community learn how to make money and what to do with that money when they have it, when they're never taught?
Right. And this is why when we do the Hidden Colors series, I always have financial cats in, like Boyce Watkins. He's been up here.
That's my brother.
Yeah, that's my dude, man. I had him in the movie talking about financial literacy. There's a great brother named Claude Anderson that we put in the Hidden Colors series who talks about financial literacy.
I'm trying to get him up here.
Yeah, brilliant brother. We got to understand this. Our economic situation was designed, again, by the white supremacists. Black people, we had an economic base during the so-called Jim Crow era, but whenever black people tried to uplift ourselves and sustain that upliftment, we would always get sabotaged. I was just down in Miami, and I was over in the Overtown area. Now, Overtown had a very prosperous business district. It rivaled Harlem. But the white supremacists there in Miami deliberately put the 95 freeway over that neighborhood and destroyed the business district. They did the same thing in Detroit. There was a prosperous black business district called Hastings Avenue. They put a freeway down there and tore that up.
Black Wall Street.
Yeah, Black Wall Street. They literally burned that whole thing down.
Mm-hmm.
Wilmington, there was a prosperous black area. They burned that down. Rosewood, prosperous black area, burned it down. Los Angeles, Central Avenue, prosperous black area. They put the 110 freeway down there. So we have to understand how the white supremacists will operate and get political clout too. This is why we got to start paying people off with our money, just like the mafia. The mafia knew how to create a crime syndicate, but they knew how to pay off certain politicians. This is why the FBI, like Hoover, they never even acknowledged the existence of the mafia, because that's how much the mafia had them in their pocket.
Now, you suspect foul play in the Prince death. You blamed it on white supremacy.
Yes.
How did white supremacy kill the purple supremacy?
Oh, man, I always suspect the main culprit. Now, look at Prince, man. Prince was a very conscious brother. Mm-hmm. Very conscious brother.
He actually was a fan of Hidden Colors.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
He promoted Hidden Colors. And if you look at that symbol he had, that's an ankh. That's basically a variation of an Egyptian ankh. So Prince was a very smart dude, and he didn't let the industry rape him.
Right.
And the industry didn't like Prince. That's why they stopped playing his stuff. And that's how they try to kill an artist's career off. But Prince was a live performer who had one of the best stage shows in the game. So he sustained himself by doing live performances nonstop. So he was still relevant.
And he would write for other people as well. He even used different names.
Absolutely.
Pseudonyms and everything.
And this is the thing that a lot of people miss. In 1976, there was a copyright law that they put out there, meaning after 35 years from 1976, an artist, if they've been in the business for 35 years, they can file to get ownership of their masters. All right? So Prince was signed in 1976. He had the original contract with Warner Brothers. Remember, he didn't re-sign with Warner Brothers because they didn't give him all of his money. That's why back in the day he had the word slave on his face. Mm-hmm. So he was beefing with them for a long time. That's why he changed his name to the symbol, because they wouldn't let him record under his name.
The artist formerly known as Prince.
That's how gangster he was. But Prince waited the industry out because most people, especially black artists, they don't last that long. Mm-hmm. No 35 years.
Right.
Prince lasted that long and then waited till that 35 years was up, then did another deal to get his masters back, and he cut that new deal with Warner Brothers. Got it? Mm-hmm. So now, suspiciously, 2 years after that deal, the brother ends up dead, and we still don't know what the man died of.
So who owns the rights to his catalog? Him, right?
He owned the right to the catalog, but now where does it go? This is what everybody's talking about now.
Right, they're saying there's a lot of controversy over who is going to control that. And it was kind of a mess.
Sure, he had
fire his lawyers all the time.
I don't think so. They said it's a mess right now. They said he was trying to get it together. They said his
younger sister.
Lawyers, he just changed assistants, and they're trying to get it now.
But okay, with that said, when you hear stuff like that, don't it make you think, well, maybe Prince knew he was sick? Because there's a lot of things he was doing before his death that he was trying to put into place.
Man,
working on his memoirs.
But Prince has been in the game for like 40 years. We never heard stories about Prince being sick. Everybody who knows the guy said he was the picture of health. This dude just don't get sick for the first time and die.
But we don't really know the brother.
But now there's a person coming forward saying that they were selling him drugs.
I saw that somebody say, that's so bogus
stuff.
Now you got all these bogus stories coming out. Was some guy talking about he was Prince's drug dealer, but if he was Prince's drug dealer, how come he ain't getting arrested? Right. The guy who killed or gave the drugs to Seymour Hoffman in Los Angeles, his drug dealer got prosecuted. So now you got drug dealers doing interviews now.
Right.
So it's too much suspicious stuff. It's
all these drug dealing rappers do interviews. Why can't they? Tariq.
Yeah, so it's suspicious, man. I suspect foul play. It's not a coincidence that black people, the minute they get ownership to their masters, they end up dead somewhere. Sam Cooke, when he got his masters back in the 60s, he got shot at a hotel. Look at Michael Jackson. Now look at Eazy. People talk about Eazy. Eazy, when he cut that deal with Relativity and had Bone Thugs as the #1 group at the time, and he got rid of Jerry Heller, all of a sudden Eazy gets AIDS and dies a couple of weeks after he found out he got AIDS. So all of that stuff is real suspicious when it comes to black artists.
No, Jay-Z got rights to his masters too?
All but one, I believe.
Yeah, all but Reasonable Doubt, I think. And he got his own streaming service. So what you saying, Tariq?
I'm saying Jay-Z better watch his back.
Well, let's switch gears a little bit since you are the relationship expert also.
Yes.
And let's talk about Beyonce's Lemonade. Did you watch that?
I heard about it. I've been traveling. I'm on tour right now, but I heard, what's the deal with this?
We've been having discussions up here about it.
Yeah.
Now, Charlamagne feels like a lot of people are saying, and these aren't Beyonce's words.
Yeah.
But the story is about a woman who's cheated on, and then at the end she decides that she's going to stay. But if you do it again, that's it. I'm out. Now, we're having discussions up here. A lot of people are saying, well, all men cheat. It is what it is. So women, you just have to learn how to deal with that and stay. What would you have
You're
to
not
say?
as strong as Beyonce if your man cheats on you and you leave him. Beyonce stuck around. Be as strong as Beyonce.
You can be strong, though, when you have a Jay-Z to be strong for. All you guys out here that's corny and whack. Don't think you're Jay-Z and the girl's going to
That's the dilemma
do
that
anything.
women have. If you're dating a guy, is it worth being in a relationship with the guy if he cheats on you? See, you got to be practical about the relationship. You got to be practical because sometimes a Jay-Z, this man, he has his stuff together. So
it's practical.
It's a little practical to be in a relationship with the guy and kind of have a conversation about the relationship if he's cheating. Now, if you're dating a dude who works at Popeye's Chicken and he has a side piece, charge him to the game.
But Beyonce got her own money, though.
I understand that, but you're in a marriage. You got a child with this guy. You guys are a power couple, and all power couples, you got to have a mistress. Not me, because me and my lady. It's just me and her.
See, everybody, not me, but everybody else. You know what I'm saying?
Let's clear that up.
So all power couples, a man has to have a mistress, except for you?
In many cases, a lot of dudes have to have that mistress. Now, I'm different because I started off doing relationships, so I've been there, done that.
But why is that?
It's kind of an ego thing, and also it's a variety thing. Men, especially men of power, you like to have your variety. It's a variety.
Don't shake your head now, Charlamagne.
Tariq on his own with this one. Love you, baby. I don't know what Tariq talking about.
Y'all just gonna throw me out there like that.
If I get caught cheating, I'm gonna blame it on white supremacy.
Now, what about women?
Say they
what
made
if
you slave-minded.
Yep.
What if you're a woman in a relationship and you're more powerful than your man? What if you're Oprah?
Yeah. And that's
Then
the thing. And that's the thing. A lot of times, you got to look at why the guy's cheating. Because sometimes it's an ego thing because men want to feel like they're in control, especially if you're dating an Oprah. Because a lot of times when women date a guy and a woman is doing better than the guy will cheat just to feel a sense of power.
So no matter what he's cheating, whether he's more powerful or less powerful,
Yeah,
there's a reason why.
That's just insecurity, though. Because at the end of the day, you should be able to stand on the premise that you're a man.
Absolutely.
I don't care how much money Oprah got, whatever. That's my boo. I'm still the man at the end of the day. I can feel like a man without having money. If you need money to feel like a man, you ain't no man.
Absolutely. And again, all men, I don't think all men cheat. I really don't think
What
all
would you
men
say
cheat.
percentage-wise?
I would say about 65. Not all, but about 65%.
Okay.
There's some guys who are very loyal.
It's the crease from industry since Beyonce and Jay got
This
married.
is why it's important that guys go through a player stage. Because all men have to go through a stage where they can get as many women as they can get. It's called the player stage. Most guys get out of the player stage at a very young age.
I call it the whole phase, and I think
And
women should go through the whole phase too.
I
Absolutely.
think men and women should get out of that phase early.
Yeah, because what happens, a lot of guys will get married at a young age, and this is when we get the middle-aged player. So the guy's like 40 years old, he done got a little mohawk, and now he bought a convertible.
A mohawk and a designer belt.
Yeah. Got some rhinestones on his Reeboks. I'm like, sit your ass down. So that's why you should get that out of your system very early.
Now talk to me about melanoid empowerment.
Yeah, melanoid empowerment. We have a nonprofit organization called Melanoid Nation talking about melanoid people, meaning people of African descent globally who have been disenfranchised by systematic racism. So globally, we need to link up as people of melanated descent and figure out ways to replace the white supremacist system with the system of justice. So with our nonprofit, we fund a lot of schools. We help a lot of black businesses. We do a lot of stuff for the global black community.
Did you watch the United Shades of America?
I did. I keep hearing about it. I keep hearing about this.
I mean, it was interesting because I think racism is just interesting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And last night, one of the guys was saying how he wished, one of the white guys was saying he wished that his ancestors had picked their own cotton. So basically, he was saying he wished they had never brought us over here.
First of all, most of the white people over here came after slavery. They came over during the 1880s. With the immigration thing where the Statue of Liberty and they brought a whole bunch of people over. So I would tell a guy like that, most likely his ancestors were somewhere in Ireland starving. And if it wasn't for that free African labor that built the wealth of this country, he wouldn't have a place to come to. So tell his ancestors from my ancestors, you're welcome.
Now, I see you get a lot of people go at you on Twitter that you respond to. What are some of the common things that people have an issue with?
I don't think a lot of people, just a couple of internet trolls, you know. The racists on Twitter, they get mad at me because I'm always calling out white supremacy.
Right.
You know, they get mad at me and say, oh, you like Al Sharpton. No, I'm just pointing out systematic racism, and we shouldn't be comfortable with racism. A lot of us black people, we become too afraid to call out racism because we are dependent on white supremacy for our bread and butter. So we got to stop being afraid to say, hey, this is wrong, and we need to replace that system. There's nothing wrong with calling out an injustice.
And what about
do you
Harriet
consider
Tubman?
yourself racist?
No, black people can't be racist. Racism is power-based. Black racism is name-calling. That's it. Outside of name-calling, show me some type of black racism. See, people try to compare name-calling to a system that will gentrify you, mass incarcerate you, murder you, medically incarcerate you, and there's no comparison. It's a false equivalency.
I was having a conversation with somebody. I told them that black people can't be racist because 9 times out of 10, if a black person does hate a white person, it's based off what white supremacy has done to black people.
And if a black person hates a white person, there's a system that's going to protect that white person anyway. Because again, black racism and white racism, two different things. White racism is okay, you can't live in that neighborhood. White racism is you can't go to this neighborhood, you can't get that job, you're going to go to jail with all the other people who look like you. Black racism is, hey, this black guy called me a cracker at Starbucks. All right? It's a false equivalency.
Now, what do you think about Harriet Tubman on the new bill?
Oh, man. Bill? You know what's interesting? We got to understand backhanded compliments. We got to understand that. Because the white supremacists, they will do something and it'll be a backhanded compliment. For example, a lot of black people will complain about no black models being on fashion magazines. Mm-hmm. And then they'll say, okay, we'll get a black model. Come here, Gabby Sidibe.
What's wrong with Gabby?
Yeah.
Tariq?
No, I'm not saying anything is wrong. But that's a backhanded compliment. Then they have her on the fashion magazines.
Right.
That's a backhanded compliment. You got it? They don't do that to white women. You don't put overweight white women.
Get Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah, unless it's a joke. They know they're in on the joke. Yeah. See, that's how they do us. So with Harriet Tubman, they wanted to put Margaret Sanger on the 20. You know who Margaret Sanger is?
Yeah, that was the woman that Hillary actually said was one of her idols.
Exactly.
Planned Parenthood.
Margaret Sanger was a
people.
stern white supremacist, an evil racist woman who wanted to eliminate black people. And they had a eugenics program. The eugenics program was associated with the Nazi system. So because the Nazi thing became negative, they had to change the name of the eugenics program, and then they called it Planned Parenthood. So this was an evil woman, and a lot of black people called them out for wanting to put her on the 20. So they said, okay, look, we'll put a black woman on there, but it'll be a slave. We'll put Harriet Tubman on there. The person they should have put on the 20 would be somebody like Madam C.J. Walker. This person was the first black self-made millionaire. She would have been perfect to put on there. But Harriet was still the business. But this is the thing. A lot of people didn't read the fine print. They're going to put Harriet Tubman on the 20, but they're still going to have Andrew Jackson on the back.
Right.
So you see, now we got a person who tried to fight slavery on the front,
black abolitionist,
and a slave owner on the back.
Yeah.
Jackson had 300 slaves. This brother, well, not brother, this white supremacist Jackson, he burned down a fort down in Florida called Fort Negro. That's why they named Florida Jacksonville. This guy despised black people. So you can't commemorate a person who tried to abolish slavery, but then commemorate the slave owner. It doesn't work like that.
Now, don't you think, I mean, just maybe, I can totally understand why people feel the way they feel just based off, white supremacy and the oppression white people have shown us throughout the years.
Yeah.
But shouldn't we celebrate just a little? Harriet on the 20, Martin on the back of the 5, To Join the Truth gonna be on the back of the 10.
Well, we got to stop jumping it up and down for symbolic victories. See, that's just a symbolic victory. We got to stop being content with that, because what they need to do is, I don't care who you put on the damn 20, give us some of those resources, because black people, we are taxpayers. We've been disenfranchised more than any group. So we do need special treatment as far as allocating resources to the black community so we can pull ourselves up.
Do you mean reparations? Or?
Right. Whatever they want to call it, because whenever people talk about reparations, they start talking this, well, slavery was 1,000,000 years ago. I wasn't there. Everybody alive right now living on this land benefited from slavery, because there was nothing here before that free African labor that built the wealth of this country so that people from all around the world can come here and enjoy the fruits of those labors. Also, black people, we have fought in every single war in this country. Black people were the first ones to take a bullet for the United States, going back to Crispus Attucks, and we fought in every single war. And some of the people that we fought can come over here and get more benefits than black people. That is wrong.
Now, people always look at reparations as like it's like something that can never happen. But I don't even know if these kids know that other races have received it.
Man, Native American groups, they get reparations. Jewish people get reparations. The Japanese got reparations for getting in those internment camps during the World War II invasion. So we can definitely get that, but black people are going to have to be serious about it. And we got to start talking serious about race and what we need to do as far as race, because we can't just keep getting mistreated into perpetuity, collectively. See, we think that racism is over because they let Jay-Z get some money.
Right.
See, the thing is, the white supremacists will allow certain black people to come up in controlled numbers. But I look at how black people as a group is treated. And as a group, we're not treated fairly in this country.
What do you suggest black people do?
Well, what we
You
need
already
to
said don't vote.
Right, don't vote. What we got to do is focus on creating an economic base. That's number one. And when we get that economic base, earn political clout. Start paying off these politicians so we don't get another Ken Thompson, like this brother who just turned his back and sold the black community out here in New York.
Now, why don't you like Ken Thompson?
Well, Ken Thompson sold us out completely out here. He created a situation where there's a bullseye on black people's back now, even more so because now he let a black person get killed with impunity. And it looked like somebody paid him off to allow that to happen. We can't keep letting black politicians who are vetted by those in the dominant society come up and represent and speak for us, because in our time of needs, they will turn out their backs on us. So this is why we should get politicians from a grassroots level if we're going to have them represent us, and we put them out there.
It's interesting you say that because I know black people that are in political positions who are really black people, real brothers, real sisters, like my man Bakari Sellers, Senator Nina Turner, who we both had on the show. But automatically, if one wants to ride with Hillary or one wants to ride with Bernie, it's like, oh, look at those coons. Oh, look at those Uncle Toms. But those, I know them. They are from that grassroots level.
See, the thing is, if they rock with a Hillary or Bernie, they're going to have to start requiring something from them. That's my thing. If you're a black person, you want to ride with Hillary, you want to ride with Bernie, get them to commit to something for black society. Don't just go out there and just take photo ops with them and let them use us and then get elected and then throw us back to the curb afterwards. We got to get these people to commit to stuff. That's my thing.
You know what? I feel like when African Americans get in good power and they start working for the quote unquote system, I feel like everybody looks at them as a coon or looked at them as a trade off. Like he said, Bakari. I mean, he was up here talking about Hillary, and he got so many nasty texts and tweets and
disgusting.
Instagrams.
And his father's one of the greatest civil rights activists probably ever in America.
But I feel like even
Sellers.
anybody supporting Hillary and Hillary herself,
That's
a
not
lot of
just
people
that.
have an issue
It's also
with that
anything
period.
that's on the political side, or anything that's on the quote unquote white side. Because even Kenneth Thompson, I've known Kenneth Thompson for a long time, and I don't like that move that he done with that police officer.
Yeah.
But
You're
I've
talking
seen him
about
take
with the Akai Gurley?
with the police officer, the police officer. But I've seen him take guns off the street. I seen him lessen people's charges when it came to drugs. I seen him do a lot, but I just didn't like that move.
Yeah,
that move I didn't like.
That was a big move.
And I'm good with Ken Thompson, but why are we looked at as coons when we do something politically, or we ride for somebody that doesn't look like us that we think can change it automatically? Oh, he's a coon.
But see, the definition of a coon when it comes to black society, because see, in white society, all black people are coons. That's why, but different words have different connotations with different groups. With us, a coon is anybody who knowingly makes a move that will jeopardize black people collectively. That is the working definition of what a coon is.
I thought it was somebody who reinforces the negative stereotypes of black people.
That will jeopardize black people collectively. Think about that. So when you got the Stump for Trump girls who get out there talking about build that wall, Donald Trump, looking like plantation mammies, that will harm black people collectively because that gives the white supremacists justification to harm all of us.
By that definition too, a lot of rappers are coons too.
Yes, they are. I'm not disagreeing with that at all.
Yeah.
We had the Coon Train Awards recently. We had a hip hop category for the hip hop coon of the year.
Why you don't do that no more?
No, we still do. We just started doing it this year.
Kevin Gates.
Yeah. Kevin Gates, I think he won. Yeah, because we had the public nominate some of the people. That's at plantationcelebration.com, by the way.
Why do you think Kevin Gates is a coon?
No, the people elected him because Kevin Gates said some things about it shouldn't be about Black Lives Matter, all lives matter, and a lot of people thought that, okay, that was coonish, so they elected him as the coon.
They throw that coon word loosely around sometimes, though, because, I mean, even up here, we were looked at as coons for having Hillary Clinton up here. And like I tell everybody, I mean, we'll have Donald Trump up here. You know, we want them to speak. We want to press them. We want to be able to talk to them. And I think the problem is when you do talk to them, they're like, well, you guys are being coons. No, we want that opportunity.
By the way, this
to
is the
ask
same
them
morning show who had Minister Farrakhan on.
Absolutely.
Big Gregory, Dr. Boyce Watkins. We got Tariq here now.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Like,
so there's
Jesus
balance.
Christ.
So you guys are journalists.
We're valid.
You guys are journalists. That's why I don't look at y'all as coons.
No, I understand you are, but that's how
I did bring a Coon Train trophy just as a souvenir for you guys.
Oh, thank you.
You keep that. But that's how people look at African American people when they get out of their.
If they're not doing anything that's hood
Right.
or anything like you that's totally against white supremacy, you're a coon.
Now, sometimes people do get a little loose with the word, but there are some real genuine coons out there. There's some people who will deliberately do things
That's
to
Willie D
jeopardize.
had said on his song Coons, where he named some of them.
You think Stephen A. Smith? He named Stephen A. Smith.
Oh man, yeah, Stephen. Stephen is a blatant one.
Why do you think he's a coon?
Because Stephen, when it comes to white athletes or talking about white people, he gets real humble. He gets very humble when it's about them. But then he will literally, if a situation where a white person says the N-word or does something they're not supposed to do, he will take that and flip it to blame on black people. That's super coonish to do that. Because one of those white females there at ESPN, they made Stephen A. Smith bow down and apologize to her.
Michelle Beadle.
Yeah, he looked like a little Sambo apologizing for something he said. But when it comes to black people, like, oh, I don't care if you don't like it or not, I'm going to say what I have to say. He gets real bold when it comes to us, but real submissive and plantationist when it comes to people in the dominant society.
What about Charles Barkley?
Charles Barkley is another one. You understand, you notice a lot of the coons are in sports. Mm-hmm. There's a great book called $40 Million Slave that talks about how sports is run like a plantation. They get these bucks, these black men,
right,
like cattle, and train them and run them around, and the football and basketball coaches are basically like plantation owners, and they bring them in, bring them out, bring them in, bring them out, and they tell these guys not to be political. You got to watch what you say or we're going to reprimand you. And then after their career's over, they end up on ESPN somewhere cooning it up. So they have that slave plantation mentality, and it should be called out.
What about Stacey Dash? I don't think she's a coon.
Are you really?
Lying.
I was about to say.
He's a coon right now. You about to call him a coon.
You know, people were really mad at Stacey Dash. They were really mad because she wasn't like that at all.
Right.
For years, black people supported her. She was on King Magazine, Smooth Magazine, BET movies, the whole shebang. And then all of a sudden, this late in her career,
happened?
She flipped because it's money. It's clearly something for the money. And that really turned a lot of black people off because we knew she wasn't a genuine coon. She was a new coon. And she won the, I think, the Bedwench of the Year award at the Coon Train Awards we had this year.
Would you ever want to be in politics, like, mayor or?
No. They'd kill me the first weekend. They would assassinate me the first weekend. The minute I do a speech, it's somebody, get your hand out of my pocket. Bam! They would get me because I would allocate resources to black communities my first day there. That's the first thing I would do.
Now, that's the thing about being a politician, too. You can allocate resources just to the black community, but you still have to do it under the guise of everybody.
That's the thing.
Because then people will be like, oh, you're catering to black people.
And that's the thing. That's what gets us caught up every time. That happened in the 60s when black people were out here rioting and fighting and getting beat up and doing the nonviolent protests, getting our heads bashed in. They said, okay, we're going to have a civil rights bill so that all minorities can get these benefits. But what happens is the door is open for so-called minorities, but the only people who get the benefits are gay white people who are minorities, white Hispanics who are minorities, white women who became minorities in 1964. Before 1964, white women were not considered minorities. Got it? So all of these other groups, Asian groups, came in and started to get these benefits under minority. And black people, we were the last ones sitting here with a plate full of crumbs. We didn't get anything.
So you telling me the Civil Rights Act of 1964 benefited all those people more than it did black people?
Yes, indeed.
And black people was on the front lines getting their heads busted?
Wow.
Yes, indeed. All those benefits. Look at affirmative action. People try to make it seem like affirmative action is this big money grab for black people. Affirmative action don't say anything about no black people. It says minorities. Look at the wording. The wording is very deceptive.
So you think Martin Luther King and them should have been more specific?
Exactly. They should have been, because see, Martin Luther King was on the Kumbaya thing. Let's do it for everybody. But Martin Luther King woke up. Before he died, he said, well, I'm going to go to Washington and get reparations for black people, and died a few days after he did a speech talking about that.
Yeah, that and people that the Poor People's Campaign that he was doing the Poor People's March, which was going to bring a lot of people together.
Exactly. Oh, yes. That's the Coon Train Award, by the way.
Now, I wanted to ask too. I mean,
What the hell?
That's the Coon Train.
I'm not
Award.
holding that.
You don't hold that Coon Train Award.
Congratulations, Charlamagne.
why do you
I
think?
get called a coon all the time, and I just don't understand.
Why do you think African Americans hate other African Americans so much? Because it seems like we say we hate white supremacy.
Oh, he about to hit you with the black on black crime.
No, the reason
Do
I
I
say
need to
that,
slide this over here to you, Envy?
you can slide it over him. But the reason I say that is I never understood, if a black man is doing well, we'll rob another black man.
Mm-hmm.
But if a white man is doing well, I'm not saying that black people should go rob people.
Right.
But why do you rob somebody that looks like you?
Well,
Why do you shoot and beef with somebody that looks like you? I never understood it. Like, I'd rather beef with you than to beef with somebody else.
Well, I think they always say
I
white on white
it.
crime, black on. It's who lives in your area and who's around
It's not
you.
even that.
It's a little deeper. I feel where he's going.
Black
Because
people scared of white people, man.
Yeah, people do rob in their vicinity, but there's more vitriol that a black person will have for another black person because we've been living in a system of white supremacy for 500 years. So through osmosis, we learn to see things through the eyes of a white supremacist. So white is right and black is bad. We've learned that on the plantation. So if a
They
white
show
person,
you that in symbolization too.
yeah, the symbolism. Just like you watch cartoons, the good guys are white and the bad guys are black. Like Bugs Bunny is gray and white, and Daffy Duck, who's always blowing himself up, is jet black. So we internalize that stuff. And being in a system of white supremacy, we look at things through the eyes of the slave master. So we have a lot of hatred for people who look like us because we're told that we're nothing. We've been told that we've never accomplished anything. We're told that we're not as intelligent. We're told that we don't know how to act right. We've been told that for 500 years. So this is why we need to remove that. And that's why we did the Hidden Color series, to tell the truth.
I always thought that it was you rob a black person, you might get a year in prison. You rob a white person, you might get 7 years in prison.
Oh, yeah.
And I think people look at it like that. Same thing with when we riot, we'll fuck up our own.
Oh, yeah.
We'll mess up our own thing where we have to buy groceries, where we have to live, where we have to eat, where we have to get gas.
Which is ass backwards.
And I never understood that.
Yeah.
How we're hurting ourselves.
So are you saying that they should go tear up the white people's neighborhoods?
I'm not saying tear any neighborhood.
Go blow up
Yeah,
some police
right.
But I'm
stations? What's
just
up?
saying,
What are you saying, Envy?
why are we messing up our own neighborhood?
Because that's true. The penalty for harming a white person has always been greater. That goes. You remember The Color Purple when Oprah's character's beating up everybody, beating up Harpo. Then she hit a white man and went to
That
jail
was
for
it.
like 10 years.
Right.
That's real life, and black people know that. So we get on our P's and Q's when it comes to white people doing something.
Yeah, that's true. That's why I always tell dudes, don't nobody be scared when you got your goons with you, but walk in there with two white men in a suit.
Yeah.
Everybody like, oh, this dude ain't playing.
Yeah, that's why people coming up here to the radio station, and no disrespect to anybody, I don't like brothers coming in flexing on other black people at a radio station. You wouldn't go do that to Don Imus. You wouldn't do that
Howard
to
Stern,
Yeah.
Simon
Go to
Cowell.
TMZ.
Yeah, you wouldn't
Harvey
do all
Levin.
that. You get on your P's and
Ryan
Q's.
Seacrest.
So my thing is, if you run up on some brothers, run up on some white people too, but don't run up on nobody.
Exactly.
You dig what I'm saying?
I'm not telling
I'm
you
saying
to,
that.
Now, tell me if this is a coonish statement. Hillary Clinton said the whole thing about super predators.
Yeah.
And I say, well, how do y'all get mad when she calls y'all super predators, but you call yourself savages and young thugs? Like, how was super predator any different than that?
Well, the thing is, with us, it's just name calling. With Hillary Clinton, she called us super thugs and super predators, and they backed that up with a policy that put a lot of brothers in jail. I got brothers who's doing life in jail over those Clinton laws that they put out there in the 90s. So they backed that up with an action, and that's how white supremacy works. It goes beyond just names.
So Young Thug did a video this weekend where he says he's going to torture me and beat me the fuck up. So if he gets arrested and that 94 crime bill puts him away, did he not just confirm what she called him?
But Young Thug, I mean, the dude has on like orange toenail polish, so the dude ain't. I mean, no disrespect to Young Thug. I wouldn't be too. No disrespect to the dude. Sometimes we do a lot of talking. That's our thing. We talk a lot and we sell a lot of wolf tickets, and we need to cut that out. But again, that's not comparative to a crime bill where you have a whole bunch of people benefiting and creating a plantation system called the prison industrial complex.
Okay, well, tell me if this is coonish.
Yeah.
The crime bill is there.
Yeah.
But the crime bill don't affect nobody who's not doing crime.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
Okay, break it down
That's
for me.
not true. See, that's the thing. We get this lie that black people commit all this crime more than the dominant society. That is a complete lie. Black people are charged with more things that people in the dominant society are not charged with.
And get more time.
We
for
get
them
more
to
time. Meaning,
racially profiled, we get. Yeah.
you got black people now who will get put in jail for just sitting around watching a fight. They will arrest you now if you didn't break the fight up.
Right.
That happened down in Memphis recently. even if you're filming a fight, they're starting to arrest people for filming
I don't
fights.
mind that because of the World Star era.
Yeah,
I ain't gonna
yeah.
lie. Some of y'all need to start calling 911 instead of picking up your phone and recording
But
people.
it is true, white people and black people, if they commit the same amount of crimes, a black person will go to jail more frequently than a
Absolutely.
white person will, and for a longer period of time.
Look at these Trump rallies. You got white people beating black people up at these Trump rallies
Right.
in front of the cops. And the cops just literally look the other way. Not only that, the cops will arrest the black people who got beat up. That's how much they give a pass to the people in the dominant society.
Right.
Bobby Smurda's in jail now. Bobby didn't do anything. He's in jail because he's connected to some people who did something. See, we get those all-in laws.
The conspiracies.
Those conspiracies,
charge.
those RICO charges
Yeah.
and all that stuff. Just like I live in L.A. They got gang injunctions. So if a dude does a crime and you got on the same color shirt, they'll tie you in with being with the gang and then charge you. So that's why we get more charges than those in the dominant society.
But we talk about crime so much, and then you see a lot of immigrants that come here.
Yeah.
And they do a lot of the jobs that I think that we don't want to do, or we're not willing to do. Like you look at
for prices that we're not willing to get paid.
Like the Mexican community, they'll do jobs for a cheaper price.
Yeah.
Jobs that we won't do, but we rather say, we'll go sell drugs. A lot of us, a lot of times, and I've seen that growing up all the time. I've seen a lot of drug dealers selling drugs, getting arrested, doing 10 years, come back out. What do they do? The same thing again because they feel like they can't take that job, let's say, of landscaping and getting $3 an hour. They're not going to take that job of washing a car and get paid $2 an hour.
I think that's a myth, brother. I think that's a myth. That's a myth that's been projected onto us. Black people will work.
I agree.
Black people will definitely work. I work with a lot of brothers out there in Chicago, a lot of those cats in the streets, man, because they are desperate for jobs. They are willing to work, but there are no jobs for them. And Chicago is such a racially segregated city that they're just funneled into this concentration camp called the hood, and they can't get out, and they're desperate for work. We will work if the jobs are there, but we get turned down more when it comes to jobs. You have white supremacist labor unions that go out of their way to not hire black people, and they will go out of their way to hire Hispanics and other groups over black people, and then make it seem like we didn't really want the job. A lot of us, we don't want to be drug dealers and all that. When I was out there in the streets, and that's the last thing we really wanted to do. Being a drug dealer, hustler, that's not fun at all. Looking over your back in the dope game now is crazy.
But to the kids, it looks great. I mean, the way they glorify it and the way they justify it. I mean, I see a lot of kids, and it's like even as a kid growing up in Queens, and you would see Preem, and you would see all these guys driving up and down. Those are the guys with the knife.
And then the rappers reinforce
Those are the
it.
guys with the jewelry.
It's
on.
very
Those are the guys
celebrated
with the
in our
women.
culture.
But in the 80s, it was very enticing, but now we know the detriment because of that.
Do
So
they, though? That's what I wondered. Do the kids really know the
they-
consequences of their actions?
Once you get in, unfortunately, by the time they get in, they lock you up so fast, they don't learn
That is a
in
fact.
time.
That is a fact.
Yeah, because I know cats who, their first time selling, and they get like a life sentence.
I was telling somebody this last week. I was like, kids aren't getting the same chances to make the mistakes that we made.
Absolutely.
Like, I got assault and battery with intent to kill charges. I got distribution charges of cocaine, but I got probation.
Yeah.
Nowadays, they throwing you under the jail for that kind of stuff.
Back in the 80s and 90s, man, me and my friends in LA, we would get into police chases with cars and helicopters, and we'd be out of jail the next day. The stuff we did then, we couldn't do now. We would go to jail for 300 years now because they've tightened up those laws now. And the thing is, we got to understand, a lot of black people, we just can't do the same thing that the white kids can do. Most brothers who are locked up are in for nonviolent drug offenses, but the number one drug is crystal meth and heroin.
Right.
All right? A drug that black people do not sell or distribute or make or anything.
Right.
So they get a pass. We don't.
Well, I appreciate you joining
No,
us.
I got one final question.
That's the knowledge we need. You need to come more often.
No
Two
doubt.
questions. Tommy Sotomayor wanted me to ask you, why do you
Oh,
call?
no. I don't talk about insignificant internet trolls.
Oh, okay.
That's like asking me about a homeless man that took a dump somewhere.
Yeah.
That's no. I don't talk about insignificant internet trolls.
So Tommy need to respect your name.
Yeah, respect my mackin'.
Okay, well, this is my final question. Can black people ever overcome white supremacy?
Yeah, we gotta focus on the problem. Our thing is we keep deflecting from the problem, and that's the problem. We start talking about the Illuminati, the reptilians, aliens. We start talking about all this other stuff.
Sound like you, Charlamagne. Yeah.
No, I believe in UFOs. I mean, I believe in UFOs just because of the world we live in. Like, it's so diverse. The universe has to be as diverse.
Man, please. E.T. ain't shooting no black folks in the back. It's the white supremacists.
But I would never blame UFOs on white supremacy. That's retarded.
No, I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm saying, but hell, I'm looking at white supremacy. It's not the aliens or the Martians. They're not stopping us from getting jobs out here. They're not mass incarcerating us.
Yeah, I never heard that one.
Yeah.
And I have one last question.
Yes,
too.
dear. Yes,
what do you
dear.
think about reality TV and how kids are now watching television shows and growing up thinking this is the way to become famous, to be on television and putting everything out there? And
that has a lot to that's very detrimental to relationships now, especially a guy of means. Because now you go out with a woman now, just on a simple date. If you're a guy of means, if you're an actor, rapper, an athlete, and all of a sudden you got this chick you went out with and she's on a reality show because of you. So also these images that we see, we got to tone down the ratchetness, because when people look at these reality shows and see sisters fighting and all that, that justifies them harming us as a group. So we got to kind of chill out on that, because now the white supremacists, they will blame single motherhood and black women for the problems in black society. You look at Fox News and they always say, well, the reason why there's so much crime and black people are so messed up is because all those single mothers and no fathers. So that's an indirect way to blame black women for the ills of white supremacy. So we got to be very clear on the images we portray, and we have to balance those out. That's why with the Hidden Colors series, I put wonderful black female scholars in these movies, like Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, who just passed, who was my idol, a sister named Joy DeGruy, a Carol Anderson, a lot of female scholars who are thorough with the game.
Now, people will call you a coon when they say, well, people only going to treat you how they see you treating yourself. So black people, y'all need to start respecting yourselves and let people to respect you.
No. Look, back in the 1960s when black people had those water hoses on them and people were throwing rocks on them, they had on their Sunday's best.
That's a fact.
Yeah, people were lynched in suits.
Right.
So it don't matter what you wear, don't matter how you carry yourself. We still live in a system of white supremacy, and we have to replace that with a system of justice.
Did you ever completely answer how to overcome it?
Oh, yeah. I'm saying empowerment. You empower yourself and you focus on it, and you create an economic base, and you get a code of conduct. See, that's how white supremacy is maintained over us. The white supremacists have a code. So when they walk in the room, through osmosis, they know how to react and act towards black people. They got a code.
Now tell the people what you got coming up.
So right now, I'm on tour right now. I'm on the More Us tour. More Us is spelled Moorus. That's based on a new app that we have coming out that's going to compete with Twitter and Facebook. It's an app centered around black empowerment.
At Black Planet on Twitter.
Oh, no, Black Planet. You think of ratchet pictures.
That was like a
dudes,
hookup.
Yeah, dudes holding up money. And
It didn't start like that, though.
I know.
More us going to turn into that.
Oh,
You keep letting all them Negroes in if you want to. More us going to turn into that.
So Morris is going to be coming next month. Also, we got Hidden Colors 4 that's going to be in theaters May 26th.
Wow.
You can go to hiddencolorsfilm.com to get information on that. And people can follow me on Instagram, Tariq Elite, and get more information.
You dropping on Memorial Weekend?
Yeah.
You giving them that information on a weekend when you know Negroes ain't paying attention?
No,
They
that's
gonna
why
be in
I want them
Myrtle
to
Beach.
come to the theater.
Yeah.
So because all they're going to be doing is out there twerking and being dusty and tricking their money off. Come watch a movie.
Well, there you have it. Tariq Nasheed. It's the
Thank you for
Breakfast Club.
coming, brother.
Good morning.
Listen.
Okay, you got your hair done. Your hair looking fresh and fly today.
Thank you. I got my hair done. Now, you know the crew at Her Imports totally hooked it up. You see how good I look? I see why they're taking over this hair game, because nobody has hair this good.
I see these weave companies on Instagram everywhere.
I know, right? It's a hot mess. Every reality star or rapper jump off is trying to sell hair on Instagram. Her Imports are the industry pros. They have the real Indian hair. Y'all don't know? Check out the video on their website, herimports.com.
The Breakfast Club. Every weekday morning. Tune in